Hi, listener. This is From Ideology to Unity, a spiritual journey where we let go of ego and ideological doctrine in favor of meaning, purpose, and unity as a whole. So, have you ever been in a situation where you've something in your life, the external experience, so to speak, has triggered in you a negative emotion or a feeling that psychological pain, suffering, something you don't enjoy feeling at all? And it could even be as simple as boredom. You feel an experience in the moment and you don't want to feel more of it, or you don't really want to feel that. And so you immediately fill it in with some kind of stimulation or pleasure or even work, anything so that you don't feel that, because it feels awful, painful, unpleasant. And on some level, perhaps that you're actually afraid of that feeling. And you'd much rather, through an external stimulus of some kind, or your interaction with something in the external 3D realm around you, let's say, interact with it in such a way where you feel a certain way that you want to feel, or at least that you don't feel a certain way that you don't want to feel. What this will do is, this is numbing. You're numbing yourself. And it's what alcoholics do. When, suppose they've had trauma, and when they numb themselves with alcohol, they don't feel that trauma. But the truth about trauma is that everyone has it. In a society where we get conditioned, who has perfect parents, really? I mean, do we even know how to parent right when every parent is damaged? You know what I mean? Like, it has gone through trauma and conditioning themselves and has got ego conditioning. And there's a certain degree of selfish to ego. There absolutely is. And if most people enough have that, most people will grow up with parenting based on ego. Now, I'm not saying your parents, whoever they were definitely like selfish people. But even people you might say are good people, if they've got an ego, there's going to be some degree of self-interested, egocentric behavior just by the fact of there being an ego, as opposed to a subconscious that's healed, which will be very different. The difference is stark, because between like a ferocious beast compared to trying to survive, doing it, or the monkey mind doing anything it has to survive, or at least feel safe, versus, and all that conditioning, versus a loyal servant of higher consciousness flowing with the divine or something. In any case, that the behavior is of someone who's traumatized, and the behavior who is someone who's traumatized and is addicted to stimulation and numbing themselves from an external source, whether it be drugs, videos, TV, coffee, sex. There's all sorts of things, and work, and drama. There's anything where that feeling of being present and what comes up is not felt. That boredom, that whatever they feel, if they're just with themselves, whatever you feel, if you're just with yourself, you're not distracting yourself with anything. Maybe it's loneliness. But we have to unpack that by feeling it. We have to allow ourselves to feel. Whenever we feel something we don't find pleasant, if we allow ourselves to sit with it rather than doing something to cope with that, because what is coping? Coping is actually, it's like, this is awful. I'm going to, it's like an anesthetic, right? You've got a wound there, and you're just like, okay, I'll take this pill, then I won't feel it, or I'll, get injected with the anesthetic, whatever the fuck. Or, you don't feel it. But the wound's still there. If you've got a wound, it's still there. Maybe it's festering. Maybe it's like, it's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse potentially. So the solution I found, because in my life I've been really trying to get to the bottom of recently my addictions. For me, a lot of my biggest addiction was actually kind of YouTube of late. But throughout my life, it's taken different forms, the ways in which I've essentially numbed myself. So, and I haven't entirely dealt with it yet, I don't think. But I did make headway today. And part of it was, I was doing a tarot reading. I just felt like doing it. And what came up was, just let it happen. That I was getting in my own way. That we get in our own way. That there could be a great transformation. We can come to joy and presence and union within, and cards were coming up for what could happen, like the lovers, and the Two of Wands and the Three of Cups. I don't know. Basically, a whole bunch of positive stuff. The Death card came up, which is a good thing, by the way, because it means the death of the old, birth of the new, and a whole bunch of stuff was just I felt drawn to. I felt like that voice in the within, a quiet voice within. I was like, pick up another card, another one, try another one, and I was like, that one and that one. And I was just picking them up, another one. And it was like positive. And I was, in a way that blew me away. In a way it wasn't even statistically probable. I was just like, and it all fit together into this message. It's just like, oh, look, you're in the verge of joy and abundance, and it could be great. Thing is, you're resisting. You're not letting that come in. You're not leaving space for that because you keep on stimulating yourself with all this. You're constantly wired on the next video, the next thing, and it's when you're doing that, when you're constantly wired on something, work, play, whatever form of either of those things, that's a duality, which is not really real in a sense, though. But anyway, whatever form it is, if you're not present, you're avoiding the pain. You're avoiding a certain pain of some kind. And there's a pain that comes from not being present. And the idea, if you're not present with yourself, what you're basically saying about yourself is that you're not worthy to be experienced, that something about the experience that you are having, that you are, isn't good enough. If God's not good enough and you are one with God, if not God, in a sense, what you're saying is all the divine cosmos which you're one with is not good enough. So you're saying you're not good enough. What you're saying is you're basically constricting yourself from the abundant experience and holistic, open experience. You're not opening yourself up to reality. You're closing your experience off of reality to a much more constricted perspective and experience. What that will do is, well, if you are not worthy of so much more experience and joy because you're, where was I getting with this? If you're constantly trying to change how you feel to avoid that feeling, then you're saying that that feeling, which is basically your wounded inner child, isn't good enough. And why is your child wounded? Because the parents told it wasn't good enough. So you're basically treating your inner child like you were treated, like when you were very young. The way you were treated then is why you have all this wounded ego programming. And not to mention, this was past lives where the same sort of thing happened. And I'm not trying to accuse you of being cruel to your inner child. I'm just simply saying most people in some way are addicted to something, some way of not being present, because it's just constant being wired on stimulation of some kind. Now, you know what it is. You know what it is that you constantly distract yourself with, or that you constantly feel that you need to do, so you're not sitting with yourself just being, because something feels wrong when you're doing that. And it's something you haven't addressed. And so what I'm basically saying, despite everything I've said here, the core message is, can you find it in yourself to allow yourself to sit with the pain or the emotion or whatever it is that comes up when there's an agitation that you feel when you want to have that cigarette or watch that video. And it's like, something is uncomfortable. I'm going to do something about that so I don't feel that. Let yourself feel that. See what happens. It will be difficult because you're so used to doing something about that feeling, that coping in some way, right? But you might be ready to try something new, I suppose. Is it really new? I don't know, but you know what I mean, hopefully. And if you're not ready, that's fine. That's fine. But hopefully this helps you in some way. Anyway, have a lovely day or a lovely evening. And bye for now.